Hey guys, Sean here. We are going to take a look at the shooting phase for Warhammer 40K 6th edition, and there are some notable changes. So let's just go ahead and play out a few scenarios and see what we can learn. Please do note that I am doing my absolute best to pull this out of the rulebook, but if you think I am wrong, you need to make a citation. You need to actually have the rulebook in front of you and tell us what it says. Because I definitely want to be playing this right, and I think it's a golden opportunity for Blue Table Painting to show our wonderful fans how to do it step by step. So I'm just jumping right in the middle of the rule book and talking about the shooting phase. So here we have some Space Marines. They can shoot all around in any direction, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn them this way. We have a melt-a-gun, las cannon, and 4 bolters. Over here we have a Necron Lord with phase shifter. That's a 3-up invulnerable save, and you'll see why that's significant in just a minute, and a bunch of Necron warriors that are toughness 4 and have a 4-up save. So let's get it rolling. Okay, so let's assume the Space Marines start back here in this corner, and so what could happen is, first off, there's no disadvantage now to moving with rapid fire weapons, except that they cannot then charge. There is pre-measuring now, so we'll measure. We'll see that they're out of charge range, so these guys figure out they may as well rapid fire. Now, what they could do is they could stay stationary, and each of these guys could shoot up to 24 inches or twice at 12, so they'd each get 1 shot. But since this melt-a-gun is outside of the 12 inches. Let's say for some reason I really want to get that melt-a-gun shot off. That's this guy here at the very back. So I'm going to go ahead and move up. So, and I want to move up within 12 inches for all of them. So away we go. Go ahead and move the guys up like this. There we go. Get our melt-a-gunner up here. Get our las cannon up here. Positioning is everything in 40K now. So now, guess what? They are all within 12 inches. Now, let's start shooting. So away we go. My bolters, 4 of them. That's 8 shots. And that is 5 hits with my bolters. That's about average. Now we're going to roll to wound. And all of this is simultaneous, even though I'm rolling for the different weapons separately. There is a blurb about in that. All models in the unit fire at the same time. So now we check the toughness here. You go with majority toughness. A tie goes to the better toughness. And so the majority toughness here is 4. Even though the Lord is 5, he's not helping out. So we need 4 ups to wound, strength 4 versus toughness 4. And that is 4 wounding hits. Now we stop because we're making something called the wound pool. And this is an important concept to wound allocation now. So now the las cannon actually does get a shot now. Heavy weapons can do what's called snap fire, which means if they move, they still hit on a 6. So let's roll our las cannon. We get a 5, so that's no hit. Let's roll our melt-a-gun, an assault weapon, and we will get a hit with that. We'll need a 2-up to wound. And so the melta is a wound. Now, so now for what is called allocate wounds and remove casualties, there are effectively 2 methods. Method number 1 happens if all of these guys in the enemy unit have all the exact same armor save. The wound allocation is done using method 1. So just so we can have an example here, we are going to go ahead and assume the Necron Lord is not here, and we're going to use method number 1. So you use it's not called, in the rulebook it's not called method 1. I'm calling it that for the sake of simplicity. Let's see here. So basically method 1, according to the rulebook, would just be the normal method. Method 2, which I will show you, is called, quote, mixed saves. So since they all have the same armor, what happens is we grab our pools, And so they get a save versus the bolter. Doesn't it look all so familiar? So I get a 4-up save. I'm going to save 2, so I take 2 wounds. And then versus this one, I'm going to make no saves because it's just a wound. Now, how do I allocate those wounds? In 6th edition, it goes from closest to furthest away. So, well, here's an interesting question. What if this guy's closest to this guy and this guy's closest to that guy? Isn't that interesting? I do not have an answer for that. Oh, excuse me, you didn't get to see that. What if this guy is closest to this guy and this guy is closest to that guy? How do you determine which is actually the closest one? So I just looked it up, and what it says is that it is unclear who is the closest. So for example, if there were only one guy firing and there were 2 equidistant, or they say a Moloch's deep strike ability, you simply randomize. In this case, it doesn't really matter, but let's say it did matter, and this guy was exactly, let's say, hold on, can you see everybody? Nope, I gotta pan it out again, sorry about that. So, there we go, isn't that better? So let's say these 2 were exactly 10 inches. Let's go ahead and fudge that so it is actually that. And this guy is exactly 10 inches away, not the melt gun. Let's do something like that. And this guy is exactly 10 inches, and this guy is exactly 10 inches. So 10 inches, so they'd like match up perfectly. Then you would randomize. But as it is, I got 3 wounds, so it's hardly going to matter. Basically, now that everything's resolved, this unit takes 3 wounds. We start knocking it off from the closest guy to the furthest. And that is how you allocate. You do not choose. You simply, it's either random or you take closest to farthest away. So these guys will be removed as casualties, and then this shooting would be over, and then you would move on to the next thing. Okay, so let's move on. Let's do something a little more complicated this time. We'll take the exact same scenario, but we will put a Necron Lord, and we'll say the Necron Lord, for whatever reason, the Necron Lord is right out in front, like that. And let's go ahead and roll again, just for kicks and giggles. So here we go. We're going to roll 8 shots for my bolters, and we are going to have half of them be misses. So there's that. So it's 4 bolter hits, and this forms hold on a second. So now we have mixed saves. So the wound pool has, hold on a second. I'm trying to find the exact terminology. Okay, which of these groups? Okay, so now you're going to have what are called, this is your wound pool. I have 4 wounds in my wound pool. And these are going to be subdivided into groups according to the type of weapon firing. So now I'm going to shoot my las cannon, and I'm going to hit. Oh, hold on, I didn't roll. I only rolled to hit. I didn't roll to win. So mixed toughness, majority toughness is 4. So I'm going to get 2 wounds with my bolters. Okay, and now I'm going to roll for the wound. So I'm going to get 1 with my las cannon. Now here comes the melt-a-gun. Check to see if he's in range. Yep, and he is. So here we go. And he's going to get a hit, and he's going to get a wound as well. So now I have a wound pool with 3 groups in it. So let's use the correct terminology here, and let's go ahead and focus this in. And we are off to the races now. Now, the person that's shooting tells the person that is receiving the shots, saving throw, okay. The model gets to make a saving throw if it has one. If it fails, reduce the model's wounds by 1. If the model is reduced to 0 wounds, remove it as a casualty. Continue allocating wounds to the closest model. It does not say the next closest model. So it doesn't go like this. Bolter, bolter, las cannon, melta. That's not how it goes. You resolve until this guy is dead, no other guys take wounds. So there's that weirdness. So unless I read this completely differently, the positioning of your models is everything, and you've got to use a little bit of imagination that this guy is like putting up a force field and he's blocking these shots with the force field in his body until the other guys go down. Now, there is something called lookout, sir. So we're going to ignore that for now and go ahead and just resolve this as it stands. So lookout, sir, is if it's allocated to a character, and there's another model with the same unit within 6 inches, he is allowed a lookout, sir attempt. Okay, so you have to be a character to do that. Okay, so let's continue. So Space Marine player, he gets to decide which of these wound pools shall be saved against first. And the reason we're using the mixed saves method, or as I call it, method 2, is because there are different armor saves here. There's a 3-up invulnerable, and there's a 4-up armor save. Let's start rolling. So I might want to try and insta-kill the Necron Lord. What's the toughness of a Necron Lord? Ooh, it's toughness 5. Let's say he's just a regular Lord. Nope, it's toughness 5 as well. So there's no insta-kill. Oh, I was hoping to make that as like an example. So, but if it were, you might say, okay, las cannon shot, go first. Since it really doesn't matter, I'm going to go ahead and assign the bolter shots to the... No, I'm going to assign the las cannon to the Lord. Here it comes. So 3-up invulnerable. He fails, so he takes a wound. And then now this goes out of the wound pool, and we go to the... So now the Ultramarines player says, okay, we're going to do the bolter shots next. So let's do those. They need 5 ups to wound. There's 1 wounding hit. Oh, excuse me, these were wounds already, my bad. Yeah, see, I hope you caught me on that. So 3 ups to save, and that is 1 failed save. So have I failed? Did I save the las cannon shot? I can't even remember. So let's say he failed the las cannon shot, didn't get insta-killed. Insta-kill, by the way, is now based on the modified toughness. So if you are a biker, for example, and your toughness goes up to 5, you now need strength 10 to insta-kill that guy. So you always ignore the lower unmodified toughness. So now the melt-a-gun, see if he makes this last save, and he does. So that just put two wounds on the Necron Overlord. Now let's take the same scenario, 2 bolters, las cannon, melta, and let's switch it up a little bit. Let's say the Necron player had positioned like this, with 2 Necron warriors and then the Overlord as the next guy. So Space Marine player says, you know what, I want to peel these guys right off, so I'm going to put the las cannon on the first, las cannon first. So I'm telling my opponent which does, okay, save against the las cannon. Well, I can't, so because it has AP2, so this guy's dead. Now I say save against the melt-a-gun, this guy's dead. Now I say save against the bolter shots, and he saves twice. So the positioning on defense, the positioning of the troops is absolutely critical, especially, let's say the las cannon were strength 10, just for the sake of argument. So the Necron Lord out front, I might say, okay, save against the las cannon first. Save against the las cannon, because if he rolls a 1 or a 2, he's toast, and he does, he rolls a 1, so that would insta-kill that guy. And then I could go, okay, melta, 2 bolters, and those would be 2 fails, so 2 more guys would die. And that is what wound allocation looks like. Now, let's get a little more complicated, and let's go ahead and do lookout, sir. And I want to teach you the right thing, so I'm going to be very careful. Okay, first off, things are considered characters now that you might not have considered characters before. You'd think it's only heroes. That is absolutely not the case. In the back of the rule book, there is a reference that tells you what type every single thing in every single codex is. So, for example, Tyranids, I was hoping very much that for Tyranids, Tyranid warriors would be considered characters. So as you may have noticed, there's no more wound allocation shenanigans. If these were Grey Knight Paladins, that first guy would die, take 2 wounds and die, next guy, next guy, next. You don't say this guy has a wound, this guy has a wound, this guy has a wound. That's gone now. Except, of course, if you did 3 wounds and all the guys had 2 wounds, you probably would have 1 guy with an oddball wound. on him. So what's characters in the Tyranid Codex? A Broodlord is a character, a Hive Tyrant's a character, and a Turvagon is a character. Those are the only characters in the entire book. What about Doom of Malantai? He is not listed on here. It's really weird. Hive Tyrant? Hive Tyrant's a character. Okay, so let's go to Necrons. I wonder what's a character in Necrons. A Cryptek's a character. A Catan Shard is a character. A Destroyer Lord's a character. A Necron Lord. A Necron Overlord. I think named guys are automatically characters. I'm really not sure. I don't see any named guys in here. But I'd be hard-pressed to imagine that they weren't characters. All right, let's get back to Lookout Sir. Now, this is where some very, very, very interesting things are going to happen strategically during the shooting phase defensively. So when you're defending against shooting, you're not just sitting there taking it. You are actually making decisions that could very much affect the outcome. By the way, I wonder if a sergeant is a character. That is possibly unclear. Space Marines. Scout Sergeant is a character. Space Marine Sergeant is a character. So, let me just read it verbatim, and if I'm wrong, you will have to correct me somehow, because all I can do is get the best thing. So, here's how it works. When a wound or unsaved wound, there's a very critical element there, is allocated to one of your characters, and there's another model in the same unit within 6 inches, he's allowed a Lookout Sir attempt. You roll, but it's only on a 4-up. It's not like Warhammer Fantasy, where it is on a 3-up, or excuse me, on a 2-up. Characters. Okay, if a unit only consists of characters, a Lookout Sir attempt can still be made with one character within 6 inches taking the place of the erstwhile victim if the roll is passed. Only one Lookout Sir can be made per wound. So here's where it gets interesting is, guess what? Because I thought wound allocation shenanigans were out. Guess what? They're not out. And here's why. It is because in the Grey Knights book, here it comes, hold on, I'm looking it up. Yeah, in the Grey Knights book, about half of the things are characters. So a paladin is a character. An orc knob is a character. So let's go ahead. And so if anything, it got extremely, possibly more complicated, which is really, really, really too bad. So las cannon, Melta. So let's say the las cannon were strength 10 and I wanted to go, oh no, not instant death. In fact, you know what? Let's go ahead and get some orc knobs out here. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's do a round on these orc knobs. They're characters, so they can take a Lookout Sir. So basically, Lookout Sir means you can transfer the wound to somebody within 6 inches. So basically, all of these guys could transfer it to any of the other guys in the unit. So let's go ahead and roll our 8 bolter shots on 3-ups. Knobs are toughness 4, strength 4, toughness 4. So let's see if we can get some hits here. Okay, so this is our wound pool there. Let's do our las cannon snapshot, or snapfire rather. And by the way, the other time I rolled it on a 3-up, and that was not correct because he couldn't have moved and shot that way. Melt a gun, looking for a 3. So here, so I now have my wound pool. So I've determined number of wounds, and so you've got to make your saves. So these guys all have exactly the same armor. So are we going to use method 1 or method 2, which is the normal way or mixed saves? You're going to use the normal way. So the normal ways is that this person says, all right, start making saves, do those first. He can do whichever he wants. So I have heavy armor, so that's a 4-up. So I would have taken 2 wounds. And then the melt-a-gun, I have cyborg armor, so that gives me a 5-up versus that one, which I fail. So now I've taken 2 wounds, and now it's time to take off casualties. So, so there's not a thing where it's like we see what happens with this group, then we see what, because mixed saves is you have to do each group entirely at a time in the order that it goes, because the to determine where the las cannon shot lands. So the firer has some control over that, but not total control. So you can neither snipe or allocate things a certain way. It's a little bit more difficult. So quite frankly, the method they've come up with, while it seems kind of random and weirdo, it actually takes quite a bit of finesse. Like you have to there's some tactics to where you put your guys. You don't just say, well, this guy takes that, and I put the 2 plasmas on this guy because he's going to get totally toasted and take the hit. It is kind of like a little more deviation. So 2 bolter shots. So guess what? This front guy, he takes a wound because now we've already rolled the save. So this is wounds. This is getting internal organs here. So this guy takes a wound. So now what? He can lookout Surrett if he wants, which I think he will. He's going to put it on this guy. So he fails the lookout Sir roll on a 4-up. So it's not like fantasy. It's not a 2-up. So he takes the wound, and then he does it again. Lookout Sir, same guy. So this guy would take a wound, and this guy would have no wounds on him from that particular volley. And that's how you determine that. So you have to look very carefully in that reference chart at which guys are characters and which are not. So, hey there. So I think that's all I'm going to tell you about wound allocation right now. I tell you. Ooh, I have secret inside information on the day that everyone can buy this book. So we talked about instant death. Oh, out of sight. This is so interesting. So let's go ahead and get the camera back down on there. Okay, I can't tell what I'm looking at. There we go. Perfect. So let's say, for example, okay, so out of sight is a very interesting rule. It says if no models in the firing unit can see a particular model, then wounds cannot be allocated to it and must be instead allocated to the nearest visible model in the target unit. If there are no visible models in the target unit, all remaining wounds in the pool are lost and the shooting attack ends. So, in this case, what I've done is these 2 knobs are completely behind here. So it does not matter if there's 10 billion shots that wound and wipe these guys out 50 times over. Doesn't matter. You can't see those guys. The wounds do not go over into them, which is an important change. Okay, let's talk about a little section called out of range. So what we're doing is we are going to leave only 12-inch range models in there. So let's say we have our 2 guys behind the wall here that cannot be seen by any single one of these models. And let's say further that we have one knob, kind of a straggler out here. He's outside the maximum range of all enemy models. So guess what? This guy, who can be killed, who can't be killed? Only these 3 guys can be killed. Guys outside of the range. So let me just read it verbatim. As long as a model was in range of the enemy when 2 hit rolls were made, remember it's simultaneous now, he is considered to be in range for the duration of the shooting attack, even if the removal of casualties means that the closest model now lies out of range. Wait a minute, did I just tell you completely the opposite thing? I wonder. Hold on. Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't understand that. That seems a little bit of a conundrum. Better people than I will have to explain that one to you.